I wanted to take you guys on a journey. All of 2016's trends, all the things that we were doing in our teenage years or maybe early college, whatever floats your boat, and we're gonna get real. I wanna get into the good parts and the bad parts because there were some bad parts, for me at least, and for a lot of people. I feel like 2016 was peak internet because we didn't care, but we did. We were posing. Like, this was the year of flat lays on Instagram. And that's my theory. It's been 10 years of curating things on the internet, and I think that's why we're so fatigued by it.
Where did she go? She hiding in me behind dreams I used to dream. Help me see the world the way I used to do. Life was just good.
Hello and welcome to Her Girlhood. I am so glad to be back. Last week we had a lot of fun here talking about nostalgia. Today we're going back to a decade claimed to be the best year of our lives. A time where the internet was finding its place. A time before TikTok. Today we're going to 2016. This has been trending on the internet and I was so excited because I posted my last episode all about nostalgia and how Gen Z loves nostalgia, and then literally the internet was going crazy over 2016, which literally just affirmed my entire reason for doing this podcast, which is to talk about nostalgia, to talk about girlhood, to talk about growing up. And I feel like we're all craving that right now because the world is just kind of in a really sad, scary place. And a lot of us are going through a lot of things, and a lot of us want to find joy again in 2026. And that is what we're doing today. We're going to find joy from 10 years ago. So how old was I? 2016, I was 17 years old. I'm not going to lie to you. 2016, I don't think was my personal best year of my life. However, I do feel very nostalgic about it because it was a very, very good year. In the moment, you really fixate on the hard parts of what's happening around you. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I hated school. I did not feel like I really fit in. And when I did have friends, they were never in my classes. And I was very lonely, not gonna lie. I was kind of a weird, shy, painfully shy child. And I think like when I was with my favorite people, I wasn't shy because deep down I wasn't actually a shy person. I just had really bad crippling social anxiety that was not treated, and I'm really glad that I started treating it in my adulthood because truly I'm so much happier as a person than I was in 2016. But 2016 did have its really amazing moments, and I wanted to take you guys on a journey. All of 2016's trends, all the things that we were doing in our teenage years or maybe early college, whatever floats your boat, and we're gonna get real. I want to get into the good parts and the bad parts because there were some bad parts, for me at least, and for a lot of people, but also there were some really, really cool parts of 2016, and let's talk about it. I feel like 2016 was peak internet because we didn't care, but we did. I've been seeing a lot of posts lately where it was kind of saying that nothing was really curated and that we didn't really care, but we did. At least I did. I think this was the rise of like the hyper saturated, hyper edited, hyper curated Instagram feeds. At least that's how I felt. I was doing content creation as a teenage girl where my biggest inspirations were Aspen Ovard, Alicia Marie, Ava Gutowski, Megan DeAngelis. All of the lifestyle girlies were my biggest people and inspirations, as well as Ariana Grande. She was another huge person that I was very much so inspired by as a teenage girl. So for me, I wanted to be these women, so I did the part. I posted on YouTube. I had some subscribers and I had a lot of fun doing so. And this is kind of when I think my channel did start to do well, but we'll get into that a little bit later. We're jumping ahead here. I want to talk about you guys. I want to talk about what you guys were experiencing because that's the fun part. We got to talk about what everyone was going through. My hot take that the internet wasn't as uncurated is coming from a place of, if you look at any photo from 2016, we were getting really into the internet. I mean, we were holding our Starbucks super brightly colored cups of whatever the hell they were putting in those drinks, and they were like heavily saturated. We were posing. Like, this was the year of flat lays on Instagram. This was the year where you curated an entire flat lay of clothing, of things you didn't wear. You'd have fake photo shoots, and I do think that happens today. But the reason I think that we enjoyed it so much is because it was fun. And we were all starting to get good at the internet. I think that is one of the reasons why 2016 was kind of like a sweet spot, because the internet was sort of mature at this point. We had had the internet for a good solid amount of time. And I do think at this point, we understood aesthetics. We understood what we were doing. We were figuring it out. And a lot of us were good at it, like I said. When I see a lot of these posts going around of their 2016 photos, you can see it. These girls were having so much fun. They were sitting on their beds, all their stuffed animals, their like quirky little outfit, and posing, right? We were all trying to be something and someone. And this was before aesthetics were truly talked about, but they were a thing. You had your cutesy girls, your Tumblr girls, your grunge girls, your Lana Del Rey emo girls, your art girls. There were definitely aesthetics that we were all trying to follow. And I think that this was the beginning of the true aesthetic sort of push on the internet, where each girl was finding their place on the internet. The travel bloggers, the art girlies. I had a lot of interests, so I had multiple Instagrams. I think that's because I have ADHD, so I have a lot of places where I make things, and I remember the art world on Instagram was fully blowing up. It was totally a thing. There were drawings everywhere of Disney characters, and I definitely participated in these. The art world was just really fun on Instagram. That was a really fun place. I feel like it was really accessible too. It wasn't so gatekept by the people who were already very big. It was very easy, and there wasn't a lot of competition. So if you did make art on the internet, you didn't have like hundreds of thousands of millions of other people that were also making art on the internet. And I think that's what made it so much fun, because it was so new to us. Even if you weren't making art and showing your art on the internet, you were still having a lot of fun being on the internet and playing around on Instagram. Instagram was really truly the app, as well as Snapchat, which we will get into. And I do think we were really upping the quality. Like if you go to 2013 Instagram to 2016 Instagram, we had about 3 years to figure out what the vibe was. And yes, still pretty new. Instagram wasn't necessarily a mature app by any means. It wasn't like our Facebook, right? We had a lot of fun with this thing. But on top of having fun with Instagram, we also had a lot of fun with Snapchat. I know most of us have probably most of our photos with the dog filter, or the flower crown filter, or an emo-ass crying filter, or truly any overly done filter, which we still use. I use a lot of filters still on my photos, and I do think this was the beginning of a lot of our desire and uncomfortability with our real faces. Hot take, I'm sorry to say. We're going pros and cons of 2016, and that was a big con. As much as I love a filter and I use them, and I cannot say that like I'm better than a filter, because again, I developed a very, very unhealthy idea on how my face should look because of these filters, because of the slimming, because of the eyes, the nose. Oh my God, if I could get a nose job since getting these filters on my face, I would, but I also wouldn't. I don't know. I actually don't really know how I feel about cosmetic surgery. That's another episode. We're going to talk about everything here, girls. Let's talk about what 2016 was like. What was the vibe, okay? It was saturated. It was playful. Drake was everywhere. I think we had like the cell phone thing going on, right? We had that going on. It was very curated. I really do think it was curated. I think a lot of people say that it wasn't, but I really feel like it was. I mean, if you go even to the YouTube app and you scroll through your favorite creators, you will see how curated those videos are. It's to the point where you made a fake morning routine because it was entertainment, right? Like we were really, really curated in 2016, but it's what made it fun because we didn't really care, but we did. It was this kind of push and pull, but now it's work because we've been doing it so long. And that's my theory. It's been 10 years of curating things on the internet. And I think that's why we're so fatigued by it. But we were curating. We were curating things on the internet. I mean, go to Aspen Ovard's page, scroll down, and you will see every single photo is very specific. I mean, down to if you go onto an Instagram account of a woman who was very into her Instagram, right? Like myself, some of my friends, again, any of your favorite influencers who were around in 2016 and really popping off. If you scroll, you will see how strategic it was. It was down to the point where you'll have a pet, then yourself, then selfies, then a picture with friends, then some nature, then your flat lay of clothing or your food. You have a leaf, there's a flower there, right? you're taking fake photo shoots. You gotta like balance it out. Whereas now I don't feel like that's the case, but I do feel like we have a whole other layer of curation that we're doing, and there's just so much pressure to post so much. So how the heck are we even able to curate as much as we are? Like, I really do miss the days where you didn't need to post every single day on the internet, and now I feel like you have to if you want to make it anywhere. And like I said before, I do think the internet is an amazing place. Like, so many people can create amazing income through the internet. Again, I said this last episode, I would not be doing this without the internet. The internet is something that I think is so amazing yet addicting. It is so, I don't know, just taunting. Like, a lot of us are very, very intrigued by it. It's so addictive though. And when I was writing this podcast episode, I sat down and I really reflected on what made 2016 so 2016 and why we feel this push towards it being so magical and special and fun. And I have a theory. I'm going to spoil my theory right away because I have so much more to talk about in this podcast. But here's my biggest theory with 2016. I think that because we had some maturity on the internet, yet we also had a real life outside of the internet, it was the perfect balance. We were good at the internet. We figured it out. We were having fun. It was playful, but we still had a life. Our screen time might have been pretty high being teenage girls or college age girls or even middle school girls. Our screen time might have been pretty high, but we were living. We were experiencing. The internet was a tool, not the end of our day. The internet was a vehicle for us to use sometimes, but it wasn't the only thing we were driving. We weren't only on the internet for our free time. We were on the internet and then we went and did things. We were with our friends. And I think this comes from the pre-COVID-ness of the world. I feel like COVID really made a lot of us so insanely addicted to the internet, and it kind of ruined the playfulness of the internet because yes, a lot of us built careers on COVID time because a lot of us were at home with our phones. And truly, I think that part of COVID was kind of fun, as horrible as COVID and everything was and how detrimental that era was for everyone and how awful it was. I do think that part of COVID was how we coped, and we haven't stopped coping. We haven't found a new outlet. I think we got addicted to these things immensely in 2020. And so 2016 feels so special because it was before all of that. It was before we needed to be on our phones and we needed to post daily and we needed to make short form content all the time and have long form and have this and have that. And if you're going to start a business, make short form content every single day. And if you're going to be on the internet and you want people to actually see your stuff, you should be posting and you're on stories and you're so many things now that you have to do if you want to push yourself to make this happen. And this isn't to say that the people in 2016 who made this a career weren't working hard, weren't pushing, weren't pulling, weren't burnt out, because I'm sure there were, and I know there were. Because let's be real, making a long form content video on YouTube with the amount of editing that some of these lifestyle girls were putting in, the hours and hours of editing that these girls were putting in, and how set up all of those videos were, again, curated, guys. I hate to say it, it was so curated. We loved it though, because it was new, fresh, fun, and playful. And we weren't chronically addicted to our phones the way we are now. We were getting there, don't get me wrong. I would love to know what my screen time was in 2016. I think like just a poll of Apple just bringing out screen time. I don't know, that's kind of a privacy issue, right? Like to have Apple totally do this, but it would be very interesting just to see how the hours looked each year. How bad was it in 2020? Is it worse now? I don't know. What else was 2016 like? Now that we've gotten a little dark, it was saturated, it was filtered, it was playful. It was the start of the aesthetic obsession. I really do think that. I think it was the start of that. And I think like if you go to Tumblr girls and all of it, we were copying each other, but then we started to find our place and our way of doing things. I don't feel like that's as big of a deal now. There's a little bit more looseness with it because again, we have to post so much. There's no way we can keep up with the aesthetics of everything. And I do think we still do put aesthetics into it. I think that's why we're so tired, because not only are you putting the aesthetics in, but then you're posting all the time and you have to stand out and you have to look good and you have to be hot and you have to do this and that and the other. And I do think TikTok played a really cool role in allowing people to show up basically filming on a microwave and you can go viral. And I think that loosened up Instagram a little bit. I think Instagram kind of got a little bit better with that. We're not as like afraid of real people and real things and real conversations on Instagram. But again, again, it's kind of exhausting now. And I think that's like the big thing that I really took away from reflecting on 2016 versus 2026. 10 years later, and the internet is more exhausting than ever. In fact, for myself, if I scroll past any more videos of people making cool things, I feel so bad. Like, especially when I'm in a really bad funk and I see people making really cool things and it's like so cool, but you're so tone deaf to it because you've seen about 50 others today. There's something about it that gives me so much anxiety because I know deep down I'm not going to be able to get to all the things that I'm seeing on the internet. I'm not going to be able to go and make this thing, or I don't want to. It fills me with this feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm wasting so much of my time on my phone and I'm watching people make things and I'm not making things, and I'm watching more people make other things and I'm not making things, and I know I'm not alone. It's part of why I started this podcast, because I'm like, I want to make things. I want to talk about things. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about making things on the internet with people. Let's go into what else we were into. We were all into Halsey. We were all into, at least I was into Ariana Grande. That was my big, like, she was my girl, truly. My style was so influenced by her. Everyone was very influenced by Lana Del Rey. At least when I say everyone, I mean the girls. I mean, it is a girlhood podcast. There was 21 Pilots. They were really big at this point. Let me go through the top songs of 2016. I may butcher some of these because I'm not gonna lie to you, not to be one of those people, but some of this music wasn't what I was listening to, but some of it was. And also some of it was played on the everywhere. So we heard a lot of this even if we didn't like play it on our own. Love Yourself by Justin Bieber was the big one. That was the number one song, which is very interesting. Like, I thought about it and I was like, that's kind of funny. I'm very big on like words of affirmation and law of attraction. And since everyone claims that 2016 was their favorite year of their life and the best year of their life and the most confident year of their life, the fact that Love Yourself with Justin Bieber was the number one song of the entire year is very interesting to me. Very interesting to me. I am not a college graduate by any means, but let's really reflect on that, right? People felt good when you see those pictures, even myself. Even though I was very insecure when I was 17 years old, I think I had the height of my personal depression at 17 years old. Part of that was because I was being groomed by a grown man, but that's another story for another day. Back to this though. I did feel really good about myself. I was doing really fun things. I was trying to make cutesy little photos on the internet, and I think so many of us were, and so many of us were like feeling really good in 2016. So many of us were confident. So the fact that Love Yourself by Justin Bieber was the number one song of the entire year for 2016 to me is saying a lot about 2016 and why we all felt so good. Because again, words of affirmation really do mean a lot. They really do impact a lot. And I think even in like the silliest of ways, if that's being played at the mall or at Forever 21 and you're trying on clothes, you're gonna feel good and you're gonna associate that year with good memories. Let's keep going. The number two top song of 2016 was Sorry by Justin Bieber. The third one was Just Dance, or Just Dance, oh my god. The third one was One Dance with Drake. That was the third one. I don't even remember that one. I might have to play it just for science. Number four was Work with Rihanna and Drake. Drake was really killing it this year. Stressed Out was number 5 with 21 Pilots. Again, that makes sense. It's kind of funny that we went from Love Yourself to Stressed Out, but that song ate. I'll admit, that song ate. Panda by Designer. When I remembered that this song existed, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm like, that makes so much sense for 2016 because 2016 was so contrasty. Like, does anybody know what I mean by that? Like, when you see photos from 2016, everything was very high contrast, very high saturation. And to me, like, the fact that like Panda and like how, there's something about it. I don't know, maybe I'm just weird and autistic, but something about that just was like, it made sense to me. Hello by Adele was number 7, which, oh my god, I forgot about that. How big that song was. I was honestly kind of surprised that it was at number 7 and that some of these other ones were above it. But you know what? Don't Let Me Down by the Chainsmokers was number 8. Number 9 was Can't Stop the Feeling with Justin Timberlake. Oh my god, I'm not gonna lie to you. I thought that song came out way closer to 2020, and I think it's because it was so overplayed. So overplayed. Unpopular opinion. I can't with that song. I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm being honest here. Like, that's the whole point of this podcast, is me being brutally honest. And I'm really like disappointed that that is a song that I feel like felt like it came out way sooner, because we still hear it. It's so overplayed, in my opinion. Closer with the Chainsmokers and Halsey, which makes sense because Halsey was huge at this time. And then for me, who were my favorites? I loved Ariana Grande's Dangerous Woman. I remember when she put that out and I was like a little bit like, oh, she's putting out something a little bit more frisky and risky, even though The Way was pretty out there, right, for 2013, and she was 19. So at that time, I think I was 14 and I was like, whoa. But Dangerous Woman was my jam. I think my favorite was Into You. That was my favorite. One of my favorites still. I love that song. And then Side to Side with Nicki Minaj, which again makes a lot of sense. And that one also was not my favorite one. I'm not gonna lie to you. But that one was a huge one for 2016 in general. That one was very, very viral. I will say, I think the fun thing about Ariana Grande at this time too was that she was really growing more mature and confident. And I think she was starting to step out of that like innocent stage that she was in 2014 and 2013. And even 2015, I feel like she was really trying to get out of that. Like, not to get really niche and weird, but I used to watch Ariana Grande interviews, all of them. In fact, like when I was really young in my 14-year-old era, I would make sure to keep up with them. Now it's impossible because there are so many Ariana Grande things out there right now that there's no way anyone could keep up with it unless you're like a super fan and you don't necessarily have hobbies. Not judging, truly, because she is one of my favorite people. Let's go to YouTube. Let's go to media. Let's talk about YouTube for a minute here. I know I already sort of touched on YouTube, but I want to like dive in a little bit to YouTube because this is a place for me that's very close to home. YouTube was our safe place in 2016. YouTube was like a cup of coffee in the morning that you need so badly. When you would see your favorites collaborate and post, oh my God, we were obsessed with YouTube in 2016. I was obsessed with YouTube in 2016. I put really embarrassing videos on the internet on YouTube in 2016, and some of them got views. I had subscribers. I wasn't like doing poorly on the app, and I think if I were more consistent, I might have been able to do better because I was popping off a little bit, but I was also a child, so thank God that I wasn't pushed into that, because I do think that if I was pushed into that world at that age with my insecurities, I don't know that I'd be making the kind of podcast that I'm making right now. I don't think I'd be doing the kinds of things that I'd be doing right now. However, I do not know how they got views, because when I rewatch these videos that I made as a 16-year-old girl, 15-year-old girl, 17-year-old girl, I am so embarrassed. What I'm getting at is YouTube was everything to me. And I think it was everything to a lot of women. I loved Michael Murphy and I loved Luke Corns because I think low-key, I do make more cinematic stuff on YouTube now. And because of that, I think that part of me that loved that world so much, when I saw those two and I could see that they were making things that were a little bit more cinematic-y for the time, even though there were some weird things on there, right? It was very 2016 core, but I could tell that they were putting the different kind of effort in that maybe some of the other people I was watching weren't, or it was just like a different energy. It was a cinematic energy. Whereas when you watched a Nikki and Gabby video, you were there and it was kind of like a reality show. It was juicy. It felt like chips, like you were having so much fun with it. Like they were the French fries, and Michael Murphy and Luke Corns were kind of like the burger. You know what I mean? Am I making any sense? Probably not. They see, this is what's so strange is because this is niche. I did say that the Girlhood podcast, her Girlhood, would get a little niche and very broad. So we're going to talk a lot about the broad YouTubers, but I'm going to get niche with some of them. I'm sorry. I have to. This was also the early Emma Chamberlain. Now, I cannot remember if this is when I started following Emma Chamberlain or not. I don't know if I was, but I do believe this is when she started posting, which is crazy. She is one of the most inspirational people, I think, on the platform for me personally. I think she's an amazing person, and I love her podcast. Very inspired by her. I do feel like it's really kind of interesting that she also started posting in 2016, because again, 2016 was just one of those years where so many really weird and fun, cool things happened. Essentially, YouTube was our television. YouTube was the place that we all came home to, and it was the probably the first thing you did. I was a huge introvert and I didn't do a lot of social things. Like, I think I wanted to be social. I lived sort of further away from some of my friends. So immediately I came home and I turned on Nikki and Gabby, who were my favorites. I obviously loved Gabby because I was also obsessed with Ariana Grande and she conveniently looked identical to that girl. I loved Nikki because I loved how real she was, and I could tell that she was a huge part of the moving force for that channel. I don't know how to even say that. I've seen her talk about it a little bit, and I've also seen Gabby even talk about it too. Again, we get niche here on this podcast. We dive in. That's what this whole thing is about. Meg DeAngelis. I hope I'm saying that right. I loved May Baby's videos. There was something about the quality of her videos that were so good. I don't know. I cannot describe it to you. Alicia Marie, I loved her like casual, comfy, cozy thing. I think she started doing her vlogs too at this point, and I remember being so inspired by her vlogs. She was always just so grounded and real, and I loved that about her. And I'm just getting like so nostalgic talking about these girls on the internet because these were our people. And then we had Aspen Ovard, my friend Sarah. Hi, I know you're watching this. We were and still are obsessed with Aspen, and her resurgence of like finding her power last year was so inspiring. And honestly, Aspen Ovard, I'm going to clip this because I'm obsessed with you. I need you to hear this, and I know I've made videos about this on the internet before, but if it wasn't for your confidence and you sharing elements of your divorce and talking about it and being vulnerable and talking about the parts that you felt comfortable to talk about, I don't think that at 26 years old, I would have felt confident enough to get divorced. I don't think I would have felt good enough or felt like I could do it unless I saw you do it, and do it with vulnerability, do it with confidence, do it with tears in your eyes, do it with the most hit of depression that I know you were dealing with. Because girl, last year was my divorce year too. Awful. Garbage foul year. It is an earth-shattering thing to go through. But in 2016, she was a year into her marriage, and I believe she was around 19 or 20 years old. She was building her house, or at the very least, her house was built, and that girl was traveling. And I just was so into her, especially when she and Parker started having their first child. I was like so tuned in, and at that point I think I also started dating my high school sweetheart, so it was like very much so tuned in with my brain of like, I'm gonna do this. And I did, and I regret it, and I know she does too. You know what? No, I don't regret it. I mean, I do and I don't, right? That divorce did bring me a lot of confidence and put me in the place to even make a podcast like this and talk about this and be in a place where I can restart and find happiness. So as much as it was so sad to have your life fall apart because someone decided to take your life and shake it for you, you had to just beg everything and everyone around you to hold on. It was awful. And again, she didn't say what happened, but I just have this gut feeling that I have this gut feeling that she and I could relate a lot. Who else was I obsessed with? Bethany Mota. I don't think Bethany Mota was as like insane as she was in 2016 as she was like the previous years. I do remember she had a clothing line. What was the fashion? We had quirky little t-shirts with kale on it or some stupid phrase. We loved those. We had the flowy tank tops, like always the flowy tank tops, so many flowy tank tops. We also loved like the strappy shirts in 2016, especially 2018, 2017 is when they really started to pop off, but we started getting the little neck thing. We also had a lot of chokers. Chokers were a thing. Anything on the neck, we loved that. Olive green bomber jackets. I wanted one. No, I think I had one, but it wasn't like the cutesy trendy one. It was like the really cheap, probably like $15 one that you could get because prices were down in 2016. You could afford things, right? Bodycon dresses. Skin tight, your butt was out, we were seeing it all. Adidas Superstars, I'm not gonna lie to you, I still wear mine. Mini backpacks were huge in this era. Joggers I think just recently and finally went away. I feel like 2022-ish, 2023, they finally went away. Always making the butt look good though, always. You can't have a saggy butt in 2016. You had to have a really good butt in 2016. A lot of crop tops, a lot of high-waisted jeans. You had to show the midriff. You had the really high-waisted jeans, and again, your butt had to look good. Let's talk a little bit about body image now, because if we're talking about fashion, we also need to talk about what was trending with fashion when it came to your body. Obviously, the thick eyebrows, the thick dark black contrast eyebrows, right? Huge. If you look at James Charles, he was huge. His eyebrows looked like bricks on his face. He had TVs on his forehead. That man was all for an eyebrow, and so were we. Truly. We loved highlighter. We loved crispy, solid liner. We loved that in 2016. And we loved big asses. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this is a conversation that is going to take a lot for me to really dive in another episode, but I wanted to sort of dip my toes in this one here. I personally felt victimized by being a more petite girl in this era, but wanting so badly to have a butt. It was like this. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this is a trigger warning. I had a lot of body image issues in this stage of my life. This will include some body image issues that I will talk about. On one hand, I wanted to be pencil thin. On another hand, I wanted the biggest ass and tits. I remember being so young and wanting to be so feminine at this age and being embarrassed of like the idea that my butt might sag in pants. Like, not that I had a saggy butt, but like if my pants sagged a little bit, everyone was pulling up those leggings to the nipples. Like, we needed booty. We needed the butt. We needed it to happen. And it's still a thing. Butts are still a thing. But skinny culture is coming back. And we're returning to that sort of Ozempic styled, I hate that I said style. God, I cannot believe this is even happening now. We are returning to the skinny culture again. However, I do feel like in 2016, having curves was in. And I remember Kylie Jenner was huge at this point, and I remember big lips, like exaggerated. You looked like a cartoon. You were doing the Kylie Jenner lip challenge. Do you guys remember that? You sucked your lips and you made them bruise. And I remember having exaggerated features was huge in this era. And I remember feeling really insecure about it, where I felt like I needed to look like I had a very womanly body, but I was 17 years old and I was 5'1" and a small girl. I was not gonna look like a woman. And thank God, because I was not a woman. And I think a lot of us, and I would love for you guys to comment down below, did you feel the pressure to look super feminine at this stage? Did you feel super pressured to have curves that you weren't quite grown into yet? I need to know. Because I was so insecure where I wanted really big curves or a lot of curves and to feel feminine. Then on the other hand, I wanted to shrink as small as I could. It was two of these. And I remember even some of the other women in that era were also struggling with that, where they were like holding on to the two sides of the coin. And you can't really have both. Some people do. But that was probably the biggest thing I struggled with in 2016, if we're going to talk about struggles, was body image. I think that was when my eating issues / eating disorder really sort of was in full swing. I will say, what we wore to school versus what we wore in our photo shoots with our friends, because let's be real, many of us still had dress codes and the school systems weren't quite up to speed with the fact that girls were wearing crop tops and showing a little bit more skin and trying to find our femininity and trying to find the style that was very, very, very trendy at the time. But yet we were all so young, so we were these like children trying to look like mini adults. But yet we were all really cute and fun and wore some cute things at this time. But I do remember like being 16, 17 years old, especially like in my 17-year-old age, and growing a little bit more confidence. I saw all these other creators that I loved so much doing this, and then I was kind of finding my way in a way when I was this age. And I remember what I could wear at school versus what I would wear even in some of the videos I would make. I think it was so much fun for a lot of us to express ourselves and not be in the school setting where we had people looking at us, because I do remember, at least in my high school, and many of you will be watching this, I do remember there was this desire to not care and to act like you're chill and cool, right? You almost had to not try. Like you were trying so hard at not trying hard. This was a huge theme where trying too hard at your grades was like kind of embarrassing and silly, even though like you kind of had to try a little bit in order to like graduate. So it was like the silliest, most annoying thing in the world. I was a junior at this age, and I think I had my first prom. And I remember prom was so interesting because this is gonna get niche. I was never asked to a dance until I was asked by my ex-husband. And that was literally the last dance I could go to. The last one. I never went to homecoming with anyone or the winter ones that they would do or any of the proms that they would do, but the very last dance, which is senior prom, right? Because they didn't do the homecoming one. I was over it. Senior prom was the first time I ever went to a dance with a guy. But going to the school dances at 17 years old in 2016 was a very weird place. I remember feeling embarrassed that I was always the girl who never had a date, who was never dating anyone, who was never with your, oh my God, I remembered this, the whole football jersey thing, right? I was never given a football jersey. And that is why for me, back to like 2016 core things, YouTube was my safe place. YouTube is where I felt seen because I didn't need to perform or be so painfully shy. I could just show up exactly as I was, and I was getting seen for it, and I was finding my people, and it was huge for me. So as much as 2016 had its lows for me, I do really feel like, again, the playfulness of the internet itself, YouTube, even Instagram, it was a place for me to be me and be seen for it. And I might have gotten 20 likes on Facebook, but if I posted something on YouTube or even Instagram, I felt cool, even though I wasn't. I was very nerdy, very shy, very interesting. But again, when I tell you that I sat alone at lunch, it was to the point where I went to the library to eat my lunch because I did not have a friend group that I was talking to that I could sit with. And it was the most painful, mortifying thing ever when you're a teenage girl and you literally have to go to the library because you can't find any friends to sit with. And then with my social anxiety, I couldn't speak. And I would have that in classes where I could not speak, even if I wanted to. And I think in 2016, I was just starting to get out of that. Finally found a place for me to be myself again with Instagram and having fun with it, posting silly pictures with the friends that I did have, because I did have some friends, but they were never in my classes. To be on YouTube and to get a video that had 100,000 views, that was crazy for me. It still is crazy for me because, again, like, I don't know what it was at that age, but I figured something out, and it felt so good to figure something out socially when you were literally sitting in the bathroom by yourself or hiding in the freaking library to eat your lunch. Awful. Let's keep working through this one. Instagram and Snapchat culture was huge. I remember you were checking scores to see if they went up. I think people still probably do that, but it was huge at this time. I remember, I think stories were starting to become a thing, and it was very, again, you were very like, this is what we're doing outside of school. And again, for me, being so painfully shy at school, when I was doing some fun, cool things, it was kind of fun to be like myself, kind of, right? Through a screen. I don't know, this is when the parasocial relationships and like strange feelings with the internet just really were there and heavy for a lot of us. And I know I'm not alone. Like, I share my stories and my weird niche conversations because I guarantee that there were even girls in my high school who were doing the same things, hiding into other classrooms because they didn't have anyone to sit with at lunch. And I wasn't a weird kid. I mean, I was, It was definitely weird, but it was always very confusing to me. Like, I couldn't figure out how to make friends. So when I went home and made silly videos and did silly things on the internet and had fun, it was so refreshing. And that's the part of 2016 that I will hold with me forever. And that is the part of that year that for me specifically was so special and magical, was that I had a place to express myself and show who I was, knowing damn well there were people from my high school watching some of the stuff I was making, and feeling proud and not feeling embarrassed anymore. I wasn't hiding it anymore. I do remember that was a thing. Either way, I was a wannabe YouTube girly, and then I quit YouTube and now I'm restarting, which is another story. Again, back to 2016 though. Our mirrors were covered in Polaroids because, again, you always had to have this like social life. Like, I remember that was a huge thing with the internet, was you had to kind of have this appearance of being super social and fun. Again, this was right before the internet took over our lives in a way that we weren't living our lives. We were existing and experiencing in this era, and now we live through our phones. And I hate that. Anyways, guys, I don't mean to be like a sob story here. The one thing with this podcast is I'm going to be asking questions just because I'm genuinely curious, and I don't want to come from such a biased standpoint that I don't get other women and their viewpoints in this podcast, because if it's just me, as much as I feel like I have an interesting perspective sometimes, I do feel like I want to make sure I'm getting everyone else's perspectives in here. What made 2016 the best year of your lives? I really want to know if it was. And if it wasn't, why wasn't it the best year of your life? Just if you want to share. The other thing I wanted to ask is, do you guys feel like 2016 is something we're ever going to get back? Are we going to ever get a year like that year where things are going to feel playful like that again? Where things are not going to feel as stressful like they do now, in my opinion? Do you think we're going to get to that point? Do you think it's ever possible? And then I did want to know, what was your favorite trend? What were your favorite things of 2016? Was it Bethany Moda? Was it the clothing? Was it the Snapchat filters? Was it with your friends? Was it doing crazy things on the internet? Was it the clowns? Because there were clowns in 2016. At least in my area, there was like a clown warning. We were literally like afraid of clowns getting us, which probably encouraged other random kids to then wear clown face things and scare other people, because why not? That was just what the year was. Either way, I would love to know what you guys think down below, what your favorite things of 2016 were, what your least favorite things of 2016 were, who were your favorite artists, what were your favorite YouTubers or content creators, because mine were obviously Ariana Grande, Aspen Ovard, Nikki and Gabby, Ava, Michael Murphy, Luke Corns. Those were my people. And I'm obsessed with Luke Corns stuff nowadays too. He's an incredible filmmaker, so still have some good taste there. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope it wasn't too rambly. I did go on a lot of side tangents in this specific podcast episode, but I really just wanted to get deep in this one and really talk the ins and outs of this year from my own perspective, and then also to share what was happening culturally. Coachella was still a thing. Like, this was a huge year for Coachella as well. Like, we were just out having a good time, and I miss that. And I feel like that's kind of what this reflection and all of my notes on 2016 came out to, was that I want the internet to be playful again. Curated is fun. 2016 it certainly was, but I want it to be playful again like that, and I want it to not have so much pressure. I miss that, and I want to live my life again the way that I did in 2016. But anyways, I will see you guys very, very soon.